I was one of the two producers on the original Night of the Living Dead. Carl Hardman was the other producer. George Romero, of course, was the director, and John Russo was the co-screenwriter along with George Romero.
All of us did many, many things, whatever it took to get that movie made. So I did some stunts. I was set on fire. I was the zombie that took the tire iron in the head.
How did the original Night of the Living Dead impact the other films in the genre? It was pretty much the first really realistic zombie movie, in the fact that it had this documentary quality to it that I think was very disturbing, because it was shot and they mentioned real locations, and just the whole tone of using black and white, and the use of the actors, brought a real believability to the whole situation.
You always look for those little bits of improvisational moments, and we did have some of those. Some were improvisational special effects makeup, some improvisational lines. In one case, an improvisational character where Marilyn Eastman, who played the character of Helen Cooper, made herself up in ghoul makeup and a nightgown, and ate a bug off of a tree. That was an improvisational moment, and it was used simply because that particular night we didn't have quite as many ghouls as we had hoped would show up.
Even before the movie was made, we wondered if we could get enough people to come out and be ghouls or be posse members or whatever we needed, and we wondered what they would look like and what kind of makeups we could be able to do. So one of the things that we did is we bought about 20 mannequins, but just used mannequins from some department store. And George Romero, who majored in fine arts at Carnegie Tech, showed us how we could use modeling clay to put weird faces on these mannequins. And then one of the things was that we made eyes for them out of ping pong balls.
Probably frugality was one of the key words throughout the production. It was true of props, makeup, costumes, and so forth. Of course, the story that we were telling all lent itself to being able to get secondhand furniture. Let's face it, it was a rural farmhouse. The costumes were, costumes of recently dead people, so that could be just about anything we wanted. So everything was kind of focused toward economy, but economy that helped tell the story.
And we thought, well, maybe if we didn't have enough ghouls lurking around, that we could put them in the background and maybe somebody could move them a little bit, or we'd move the tree limbs and make shadows on their faces or whatever. And the one that I made was pretty gruesome looking. We made fake hair for them too out of crepe. And mine actually got used. And it was after I took the tire iron in the head, and then my body is supposed to be dragged outside and burned. Well, the thing that was set on fire was the mannequin that I made up as a zombie. So you never got to really see its features because it was supposed to be me.
Even though if you look at it now, it seems rather tame to a lot of the things that they're doing today, but it was really the groundbreaker and the first to actually use really realistic, gory effects.
Well, one of the things that we didn't have money for was to bring in bona fide, when I say bring in, I mean from Hollywood, bona fide special effects makeup artists. We just didn't have the money to do that. In Pittsburgh at that time, there were no special effects makeup artists.
And as far as zombie makeups, Carl Hardman and Marilyn Eastman did a lot of those makeups, and they were fairly simple at first, just whitening the skin and making weird shadows on the faces and hollowing out the eyes, making the eyes look dark and so on. But we did a lot of it with just our facial expressions.
And they had a kind of an understanding of makeup. And so Carl Hardman and Marilyn Eastman volunteered to be our special effects makeup crew.
Like when I did the zombie with the tire iron, who was going to take the tire iron in the head, Carl did my makeup with Dermawax. And Dermawax was the wax that morticians used in those days, and I think they still do. And if you lose your nose or get your ears cut off or whatever disfigurement happens to you in a car accident and now you're dead and your loved ones want to see your face reconstructed, that's what morticians use. It's really hard and painful to get off. I used to have to scrape it off with a table knife, and it hurt.
Certainly people in Hollywood did special effects makeup, Boris Karloff and Frankenstein and Lon Chaney and the Wolfman and those kinds of things. But frankly, in our production and at our production budget level, we never had the option of bringing in any big-time effects.
So the makeup was combined with the spooky lighting, and the lighting was fairly simple. We used lights, Colortran lights, a lot like what are being used today. And this very day, I mean, they're still used all over the place on movie sets. And then we made what we called gobos. And what it was a C-stand, just a stand with an arm on it. And we would hang black seamless from those arms, and then we would cut weird shapes in the seamless, and we would light through those crazy patterns, and that's what made the shadows in the house or even outside when the zombies were feasting on human flesh.
Rather than using real special effects blood, we were able to make a consistency of chocolate syrup, and that served our purpose really well. And on the camera, it created a believable effect.
We could use different kinds of things for blood without, number one, without having to worry about the color. Some places where we didn't want the blood to be too fluid, we used chocolate syrup. Other places where we wanted the blood to fly because we had squibs. This might have been one of the first movies to use squibs. I don't know that for sure.
Practical special effects as opposed to CGI, which I hate. CGI has its purposes, and it's a tool just like anything else. It could be used to enhance practical effects, which is the best usage of it. But I think CGI is still in the developing stages, and when you have something like that, you want to push the envelope and you want to take it as far as you can, experiment, see what you can do. And then in a few years, they'll start going back to using more practical things, or somebody will discover, wow, we can do practical stuff like in the 80s, and they'll go back and it'll just start all over again where you have directors that like to see stuff on set.
Because filmmaking and the subjects within filmmaking, special makeup effects, writing, music, lighting, direction, all of those things, if you don't have a passion for them, the fields are so competitive that you find that you're falling a little bit farther behind. There's always someone new, innovative, coming along to nip at your heels. And it's as you get older in the business, you have two things working in your favor. Your reputation and your experience. Now, if you can still couple those things with imagination and keep your thinking fresh and innovative, then you'll survive. But if you don't have the fire in the belly, that's when the washout rate occurs.